Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here, co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. I'm also the author of the book Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. With me, I've got Mike Garrison, who's also got a copy of the book. Should we put them up together? And then...
Mine's bigger.
We can then use that as, I can use that as the front on the YouTube. So Mike, we're here to talk about referrals. You're the referral king. Before we get into this, can you tell everybody where they can get hold of you? So your Twitter handle, your website, and all that sort of stuff.
Twitter handle is CPRFOR sales. CPR for sales, because most sales processes need a little resuscitation. Okay. LinkedIn profile.
We'll be coming back to that, won't we? The CPR.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. I am here for you, sir. You can find me on LinkedIn. I post at least 10, 15 times a day. I also share a lot of stuff from people like Tim. So if you can't find Tim, you can find him on my stuff.
You're usually commenting. You're very active on social, especially on LinkedIn. Yeah. And I mean that really positively.
It's like I learned something. It's so strange.
So
the website.
Before we get into talking about referrals, you've actually been on a little journey, haven't you?
I have.
We were actually talking about this in the green room before we started, which is that you actually were doing referrals in the analog world, and then you thought, and hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you realized that this digital thing was happening, and you thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I still going to be relevant in the digital world?
Yes.
And then you read my book, Shameless Self-Promotion Plug. So talk us through that. Talk us through that little bit of the journey, because I think that's important that we get a grasp that what I often say to people about social is actually we're not doing anything different than we did 20 or 30 years ago.
Not a bit.
It's just in a digital environment. Question to you, Mike.
Yes. I'm going to start off with 2 quotes from the book, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Because the first one is from page 15, and it's where you talk about word of mouth marketing. So word of mouth marketing has always existed in the offline world, but the connected society has accelerated the speed and distance that good and bad news can travel. And in a best-selling book that I wrote with 2 other authors called Truth or Delusion, we said, truth or delusion, networking is the safest form of advertising. Delusion. And what you showed me with this book is that risk had actually increased tenfold because of digital technology. And then on page 74, in social selling, where we're using networking techniques on social networks to find leads and make sense, we're right at the beginning of the adoption curve. That changed my life, because I had been involved with a company called Business Network International, BNI. I was a franchisee, wrote a best-selling book along with Ivan Meisner, my first real big mentor, and a guy named Mike Macedonio, all kinds of copies everywhere. And then we started a franchise company for referral sales. Long story short, a lot of personal tragedy happened in my life, and I sold everything. I kind of just got out of the game and just tried to figure out how to recover. And when I started to build myself back up, I looked around at Facebook and LinkedIn, and I went, oh no, I'm a dinosaur. And the meteor hit, and I didn't even notice.
Right.
And I was talking to a friend of mine and about that, and he says, well, Mike, that's crap. He goes, that's not true. Remember when we were copier sales people 30 years ago, we would have killed to have the access to information that we have now. That now you don't sell based upon your ability to educate a customer. You sell based upon your ability to serve. And he goes, that's what you're about. And he suggested I read Social Selling by you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it was great. And transformations can be very rapid. Like I did massive action after reading. I didn't even finish the book when I started making changes, because what you did is, it's a very small thing, Tim, but you created a place where I could be curious and find clarity. That hey, you can do this. It's a very engaging book, a very encouraging book. It's It's not very controversial, in my opinion. And for anyone out there who's an older salesperson, this book is your future. It is your pathway to take all that experience and create massive ROI. So that's how it started.
So Mike, so when this is about you rather than about my book, but when Matt and I basically wrote the book, we saw that there was too many books out there which was saying there's a problem, and you'd get there and you go, okay, yeah, I know there's a problem. So how am I going to sort it?
Exactly. I got to pay the mortgage.
And I still see them, and they still come out, and here's a really good book. No, you're just telling me that there's a problem, and I knew this 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so when Matt and I sat down and wrote it, one of the things that happened was that we would brainstorm a chapter. The two of us would get together, we would brainstorm it, whiteboard it, and then one person would go away and write it. And the first chapter we got together, I'd been in a meeting and with a sales leader, and they'd leant across the desk. And I'm not going to use the word beginning with F they used. I'm going to cut that bit out. But they leant across the desk and they said to me, Tim, this social selling is all very well, but where are the leads?
Exactly.
And Matt said, that's going to be what we're going to do. We're going to use that phrase every time we brainstorm something. So we would brainstorm something and then we'd go, okay, that's a bit fluffy. How are we going to get leads out of this? How are we going to get revenue about this? And what we tried to do in the book is not actually, it's not about it's not about why you need to do social selling. There's a bit in the beginning, but it's a how you need to be social selling. Exactly. And I've actually tried to get people not to buy the Kindle edition, because I actually want them to get a book that they can take off the shelf and go, put it back 2 months later, go, what was that thing that Tim said? And that's the way that we wanted people to use it. Sorry, I just wanted to put that in. I'm passionate about my book, obviously.
I completely agree. And, it's ironically, that book assisting me in my digital transformation has allowed me to help out lots of my clients in the coaching consulting business, because I just go buy the book, read it, we'll sit down and talk about it. Because what I want to do with referrals is what you guys are looking to do with social selling, which is bring in predictability. Where are the leads? I've always been frustrated with people that try and create referral systems around liking, knowing, trusting. Because why would you refer if you didn't? It's like, I'm going to build my system on the prerequisites you have to have before you get there. It makes no sense to me. Referrals are predictable. Referrals are the best form of advertising. For specific industries, there's some that they don't work, but if you're going to do referrals, why not be able to get everything you can out of it? And that's what I love about social selling. Social selling for me is referrals 2.0.
Yeah. Literally. So our business, we get, the business either comes inbound or we get it through referrals.
Sure. I mean, what's inbound other than you did a good job?
Yes, some of it is I read an article and I want you to come and speak at our sales conference or something like that. But in most cases, and that for us, for Adam and I, the most important thing is the quality of our output. Because if we're not providing a quality, then the people don't go. We need to, we want people to be sitting there going, you need to talk to these guys.
Absolutely.
This will change this is going to change your life.
Absolutely. And that's what most people don't think about referrals is when you kind of throttle it by measuring on emotion, what you really do is you take one of the most powerful ways to grow any business and you turn it into a surprise system. It's like, when you think about a pipeline and the funnel, almost everyone I know teaches referrals at the end of the funnel, near the end of the funnel. I don't know of any techniques out there that can predict that, let alone referrals. And yet, because of how wonderful it is to have a prospect say, oh my God, Tim, we've been looking for something. I heard about you. Can you come in and help us? I mean, we all love that. I want everybody, if you hear anything out of this, your surprise referrals, those ones where people choose to buy late in their buyer's journey, those increase when you start working up at the status quo. And that's what my entire philosophy is. I don't know of anything that beats a status quo kind of introduction than a referral. And the hardest thing for me when I was a copier salesperson is how do I manage that top of my pipeline, with people that don't want to talk to me.
No, nobody wants to talk to a salesperson, do they?
Especially not copiers in Washington, D.C. My God, it was ruthless. But what referrals offer you is an ability to engage personally at status quo in a credible way as a human being sometimes. Maybe not even what you do. It might be like, hey, Tim's cool and he likes fly fishing. Like Lee Bartlett's a good buddy of mine. They let you get in, and then you can use everything that in social selling, that content curation, personalization, you can use that to move it down the pipeline to where you reap it. Because my system's cultivate, plant, reap. Really complicated.
TPR.
Yeah, well, what stops people from doing referrals is they don't have clarity as leaders about how to implement that in a way that won't get them fired by the CEO.
So for people that are watching, what's your definition of a referral? Let's get back to basics before, just in case people are asking that question.
Yeah, an introduction.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a myth about quality referrals, and it is a absolute. If you ever read the book Dune, right? I would say instead of fear being the mind killer, I'd say quality is the mind killer in referrals. Because I would vastly prefer a text message introduction saying Mike's a cool dude to a prospect. Because I have an expression, let's save your relationship power of your referral source for later in the pipeline to either move past a sticking point or to convert it to an opportunity, as opposed to trying to shoot the moon when you don't know if they're in the business or not.
Right.
And the other big problem is stop trying to train people to be salespeople for you in referrals. That's asinine and stupid. It takes forever to train a good salesperson. How are you going to do that with a referral source? Instead, and don't even train them how to introduce you. Let spontaneous stuff happen. Instead of doing all that, ask for their help. If they're willing to help you, then come up with something they're willing to do, and then do it. And the easier you make it, like referrals for me, Tim, are about three things.
So when you say ask for help, that's basically the salesperson going to their prospect, because you're talking about people actually up in the funnel, not necessarily customers, and saying, we seem to have a pretty good relationship. You kind of get this. Could you help us? Can you suggest any other friend? Is that what you're saying?
It's a little bit more structured than that. So I focus all of my efforts with my clients and myself on identifying people that are willing to refer, not people that can refer. So, because referrals is a time management game, right? So you have to be very ruthless in how you prepare for a referral conversation. So the first thing I look for is the customer or strategic alliance. Like other salespeople that sell to my prospects are far better referral sources than my customers are, because they already got to sell.
Yep.
They got bandwidth, they got access, So, but when I work with customers, my main thing is this a good time to talk about whether or not you'd be willing to help me out? And I keep it really slow. Humility is your friend. If they say yes, then I say, that's great. Referrals are the lifeblood of what I do. I love them. If you ever send me one, it'd be great. Would you be open to a conversation about maybe referring me? And it's scary because I'm like a driven, crazy dude, and I want to be like, gimme. But you have to remember that it's about them. It's about their relationship with the person they're looking to refer you, and you have to be able to mitigate. In fact, you have to work risk, because people don't refer based on risk, not on willingness.
So I know a lot of people that say, I'm not in sales. I'm not a salesman. Therefore I can't do this.
Liars.
Okay.
They're lying. They're either in complete denial about how economics works, or they've got some psychological block about what sales is. One of my keynotes is sales is just a noun. Get over it. It's not good or bad until you add people and preconceived notions. And so, if you're anti-sales, you're going to suck at referrals.
Right.
because you're not going to be strategic. You're not going to prepare like you should. And for me, like the number one thing in referrals is, if I refer you to somebody, Tim, will I get my customer back? Right. And that's the number one thing that as you move out of like the, Chamber of Commerce networking and you move into strategic referrals, the number one thing is, how do we mitigate risk?
Right.
Right. And you do that through three things: time, money, emotion.
Right.
Right. And so, but when you're asking for referrals, when they say, yes, I'll help you, just to get back to that, and this is the hardest thing for me to do, Tim, is stop and ask if they have any ideas.
Right.
It's so hard because with LinkedIn and all these other tools, if you are asking referrals by anything other than the specific name and company, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are now obligating your referral source to do your stinking job.
Right.
Shame on you. Right. But if when they say they're willing to help, you start saying, well, Tim, I noticed Adam and da-da-da-da-da, and you just start transacting and pulling all this stuff out of them, you're going to kill that emotional movement that you created by being humble.
Okay.
And here's the other really great thing. Maybe 10% of the time when I do this with clients of mine, they will come out and give me an idea what they want to do. I have 100% success rate on those referrals. That
right.
When they create the idea, they then own it.
Yes.
And those people go into my CRM as high level referral sources. They get additional time and resources.
Right. Okay. I get that. Yeah.
Cool.
So this CPR process that you got, talk us through that.
Well, I used to have really complicated processes because I was even more narcissistic than I am now. Because my training was supposed to help people, but it was really about how freaking genius I was.
Well, how clever you are. Yeah.
Yeah. ROI is not good enough on that.
It's the problem that consultants usually have, that they actually spend more time telling you how clever they are rather than actually solving your problems. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the return engagements were sparse.
Yeah.
But I felt really good about myself until I realized that I sucked.
Right.
So my concept is, how can we make it simple? Because, a CEO, CFO, CRO, CSO, how do I create a way for them to pull the trigger on letting this crazy referral dude come in and talk, as opposed to all the bad stuff they've seen? And so how do we take that buying process before the opportunity process and make it simple? And I just thought of it within cultivating, that first referral introduction. In my process, we're not trying to grow a tomato in 3 minutes. There's some preparation and analysis. So cultivating, which is where you make contact, and social selling, right? The whole goal is to engage with the prospect, not sell the prospect, which is, when we say sell, we're bastardizing that word. Don't pitch, don't try and transact. And so my cultivation starts with a referral, an introduction. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. Once it happens, a thank you goes out. Thank you so much for trying to do something. Because when I try and make people give me sales, my checkbook gets small. And I have needs, Tim. I have needs. So it's important. So cultivating is about, how do we make contact, and then how do we start to add value? And it's good social selling. You see all the really good people. Jack talks about it. Larry talks about it. You start sharing content that brings tangible value, kind of like the Challenger sale dudes.
Yeah.
That brings tangible value apart from what you get paid for. Yeah. Right. And that involves research and preparation. Once again, if you're out there and it sounds hard, no pity. Right. Selling.
Unfortunately, this is hard work.
Yeah, I mean, it's sales, man.
If you want an easy life, you're going to be replaced by a robot.
Yeah, you're done. I mean, get good at video games, maybe, but if you've ever seen competitive video games, those dudes, the amount of effort they put in strategy and training, everything takes.
There was an interview with a guy, and I can't remember what game it was, but they interviewed him and it said, You're the number one person in the world on this game. How do you feel about that? He said, I'm really unhappy. I said, what's that? Well, he said, well, every time I go for a show, I have to take 7 iPads with me. Otherwise, people come and burn my stuff down.
Exactly. You know,
it takes hard work.
It's no way around it. And that's my biggest problem with how referrals are usually trained. Referrals are trained and presented and philosophized by a lot of, I'm editing for comment, unscrupulous people that use it as clickbait fodder to prey on salespeople that are lazy or that don't sell. You know, and it's a complete myth. Selling by referral is actually, it's not harder, but it requires a lot more introspection about your own values and motivations. Because if you really want to get to where you're making $100 to $200 to $300 to $400 or $1 million in extra commissions from referrals, you have to transform your habits. You have to be disciplined about what you're doing, because in referrals, it's not whether or not you lose a sale. It's whether or not you honor the person that introduced you and build that relationship. And it can't be casual. These are human beings. And I always say, I'm always glad when people don't want to really do referral-based sales, because there's lots of other ways you can get business. You can advertise. Let me know how that works out about 5-10 years from now. Right? Or you can do inbound marketing. There's all kinds of ways you can do so. If you're a psychopath, cold call all the time.
Yeah.
Cold calling works.
It does.
But just don't suck at it. You know, like everyone says like cold calling's dead or inbound's dead or this is dead or social selling doesn't work. And it's all crap, because if you're good at it, if you focus on it and you teach yourself, you're going to generate ROI.
Yeah, I've got a friend, and it's well known that he sells because actually the people he worries I was going to say worry. He's constantly pestering the people. I don't know if that translates into so much that the people actually say, "Look, we're going to buy the stuff now. Go away."
Never worked for me. I heard security.
And your feet start dragging to the front of the door.
You, man, there were buildings in Washington D.C. because I was pretty tenacious, man. I would walk in, and that old lady down there on, like, I'm thinking Van Dorn Street. You're probably dead now, but that old woman, man, I would walk in the door and it said no soliciting, and I wasn't soliciting. I was going to tell her how great she looked. I would walk in and she'd go, and I'm like, wow, unbelievable. People, I'm telling you, the digital thing, if you're a real salesperson, digital transformation, social selling, it's the best daggone thing that ever happened. You know what I used to have to do to find prospects, Tim, if I didn't cold call?
Yeah, telephone directory or something.
Worse, I had to go, that was like, I would, like, because you're trying to social sell, right? You go to the LinkedIn profile and you see what they're interested in. I'd be like scanning the newspaper, and I'd go to the freaking library to look at trade journals to try and see if anybody in the Washington, D.C. area had been promoted or whatever, because you couldn't get that information. Now all I got to do is log in. I mean, it's amazing.
I remember going to trade journals, and you had to get there when the trade journal came out, because if someone's article was in it, they would get so many cold calls.
Absolutely.
I knew people that refused to appear in articles because they knew that they would just get so many cold calls. When the article came out, you'd be like on the phone, "Oh, you've just been appeared in that's really interesting." But it's the only way that you knew the person's name.
Absolutely. Or referrals.
Yeah.
And like my sales career turned around when I visited B&I Group, and a guy named Art Radke talked about referrals that were on purpose.
Right.
And that was in the 1990s. And I was like, I'm interested. The hook was set, and I went 100% by referral in 3 months.
Wow.
So
we've done the cultivating on the C. So what's the P then?
The planting, right?
Planting.
Right. So you have to, I hate to use that word value, because you and I both know how many different definitions there are.
Yeah.
But planting is where you start to refine your messaging, and one of the ways I like to plant is this really cool thing about LinkedIn. I was just prospecting today, like 5 minutes before our call today. I was looking at my sales navigator and noticed that one of my desired prospects is actually in connection with one of my really good friends I had a beer with the other day.
Right.
And I texted him. I said, hey, man, how well do you know this dude? And so planting for me is usually the introduction of another referral.
Right.
Right. We call them endorsements on LinkedIn, but these are endorsements that are delivered personally. So that's usually how we plant. We bring in another relationship, whether it's social or business, to try and ascertain where on the buyer's journey that person is. And you'll get responses like, hey, Tim, I've heard that, have you ever met Mike Garrison? Oh yeah, he's a good guy. He's sending me some stuff, but I'm not really in the market. Wow, cool. Or they say, yeah, he's been sending me stuff. I'm thinking maybe I want to talk to him. Then that person can help it move from planting to reaping. Planting and reaping are really close. Reaping really is just that transition point from what I call the prospecting pipeline to the opportunity funnel.
Right.
And that's I don't work a lot in reaping because like Anthony and Areno, I mean, there's so many great Jeb Blount. There's so many great people out there that are so good at working the opportunity funnel. I feel like I have no business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So my whole thing is how do we mirror and advance the buyer's journey? And we do that through cultivating, which is kind of early social selling and referrals. And then we tailor those messages. It's kind of like, I bet it's the stuff you guys do at Digital Leadership, right? Where you're designing content and engagement and interactions.
And we probably haven't thought about it yet. Yeah.
Oh, I know you're doing.
Someone came to me the other day about different stages, and I said, I've only just worked out this bit. So I haven't, but I'm now thinking about it.
Yeah, because
there has to be something. We've got to come up with a methodology in terms of of using social through the pipe.
Think of it from a referral basis because it, right? And so my thought process is this: if you can get introduced by a credible relationship early, before they've transitioned into research and all the steps of the buyer's journey, then you've got a reason that your content will stick. It doesn't always work because, hey, if somebody figures out how to have a 100% close ratio at an entry point pipeline by referral, I surrender. But it's just how you do it. And so I would look at what matters. I talk to people all the time, and content for me is a bridge. It's a bridge. And so when I'm developing content and moving people down my opportunity, my prospecting pipeline, I'm going to their Facebook. And like, I've noticed that you started doing a little bit more on Facebook and talking about it. And all these people that are telling you that Facebook's not for B2B, they're toast.
Rubbish.
How can you even defend that comment? Because in Facebook, I get all the personal stuff.
Yeah, but Mike, the thing about Facebook is that, or the thing about what people, the problem that they have is that sometimes the way that we buy actually enables you to put yourself in your customer's shoes. Mm-hmm. But there's sometimes when we think and we speak, we actually put ourselves in our own shoes. So the comment, Facebook is only for family and friends, is a big mistake.
Yeah.
Because, who are people going to buy from? People they trust. Yeah. Probably their friends and their family, because they trust them. So, and the other thing is actually, and this is just a slight other side, Facebook groups work, LinkedIn groups don't. There are
yes.
I mean, Facebook groups are the place to be. I know someone that's done some research for a very large 3-letter American US computer company, and he said the name then. And they basically said that, well, their view was that 80% of the discussions that were going on social were in dark social, meaning WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups. They didn't. Groups. Yeah. So the stuff that you see out on Twitter and on is actually only 20% of the story. And buyers are actually going into these groups and going, I've got this problem, guys. Can you help me?
Absolutely.
And this guy rang me up and said, this is for real.
Yes, it's here. This is not theoretical. I'll give you an example, right? Right after I read your book, a couple buddies of mine in Roanoke, it's a small little town, about 300,000 metro area in Virginia, United States. A couple of buddies of mine started this Roanoke Business Club Facebook group. And they did it to promote their business, but they didn't charge anything and they gave tremendous value. And I just read your book and talking about confirmation bias and vetting and stuff like that. And I logged in and went to that Roanoke Business Club, and there were 4 people asking, hey, I'm in the market for such and such. What do you guys think? Mm. And in the channel, it described how they'd done some research, but they wanted a personal touch. And so I would say that LinkedIn, for me, the engagements that you get on the public sections are invaluable. Yes. It's a big part of my strategy. But on LinkedIn, I'm more looking to establish a brand, and I'm more looking to engage with folks like you to develop and to learn and to be credible. I feel there's no authenticity in most LinkedIn groups. It's just a crazy. It's like those dudes that hunt for deer by shooting them in a corral. It's like it's inhumane and it's awful. And by the time the person that joins the group figures out that they're in the corral, they're gone. Right?
It is. Nobody will join them because they know that there's these sharks swimming around.
Rabid.
I mean, if you get through the recruiters basically spamming you about jobs that you don't want,
yes,
hey, we got this, and you go away, and then all of a sudden, and there's these sharks just swimming around.
Have you had any recruiters trying to recruit you to Oracle, like these nice independent recruiters? Wouldn't that be the ultimate thing, right, Tim? Tim, have you ever considered working for Oracle?
Well, you laugh. I actually did some work with the recruiting team in Oracle when I was there.
So you fixed that.
So I actually know what their strategy is, and I actually I would actually I would actually be on their list. It's not right for me to explain what their target group is. But
can I share something interesting with you? Sales Navigators.
Don't forget, we're still recording, Mike. So
it's all good. No, I love Oracle. But if you're from Oracle and you're listening to this, explain to me why 15 to 20% of all my views, and I get thousands of views on stuff, right, comes from Oracle. And yet no one from Oracle has ever engaged with me. So I'm not upset about it, but I find it weird because I'm like, wow, Oracle, you've got 455 views this week from Oracle people. I'm like, well, why? I'm an enterprise guy, but I'm not known enterprise. So anyways, that was an aside. What's interesting is the thing I like about these Facebook groups, like I'm in a weight loss Facebook group and I've lost 10% of my body weight since I've been in it.
Right.
Everyone in there is authentic and we shout down all the vitamin people.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I'm not interested. Don't send me anything from any stinking vitamin company. If I can't buy it on Amazon, I don't want it.
Mike, we're now at 33 minutes, so we've kind of overrun, but I thought the discussion was interesting. Remind everybody where they can get hold of you.
www.garrisonsalesconsulting.com or at CPR4Sales at Twitter or LinkedIn.
And for people that don't know, Mike's the main man when it comes to referrals.
I'm the main man, and Joanne Black is
she's the main woman.
She's the emperor. Joanne Black.
I did an interview with Joanne, and I've met Joanne. I love her. I think she's fantastic.
She's been an inspiration for me for decades.
She is inspirational. She's just a fantastic person as well.
Yeah. If you can't afford Joanne, hire me.
You're going to get the crumbs off the Queen's table. Is that what it is?
They are not crumbs, my man. No, she's amazing. She really is the only other voice out there, Tim, seriously, in B2B enterprise referrals.
And she's so passionate, and it's like, and it's like you come away from meeting her and you go, why wouldn't I be doing referrals?
Exactly. I first heard of her when I was first in BNI, and she is a person of consummate integrity.
Yes, she's brilliant.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Joanne Black is, she's written a book called No More Cold Calling.
And at Referral Sales is her Twitter handle.
and our referral sales, and you need to check her out because she is brilliant.
So she's better than I am, but I'm like funny, and I'm like, you know.
Even if you say so yourself, Mike. Yeah.
Narcissism
Mike, works
for me.
Yeah, good. Mike, thanks for today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the book.
And buy the book. Thank you.
It changed my life, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, man.
Cheers, Mike. Thanks.
Cheers. How do I get off this?
I just stopped broadcasting.
All right. Take care, my friend. Thank you.
Cheers.